Hello, and welcome to This is Diana. I am your host, Diana Navarro from thisisdiana.com. Thank you for joining me. Today I want to talk to you about trauma, stress, PTSD, chronic pain, and how sleep, actual sleeping and resting, can help with all these conditions. Not only that, but how these conditions are interrelated and connected. A lot of times people go through life not understanding why something that may have happened to them a long time ago is still rearing its head when it comes to something traumatic and painful, and this thing is still affecting them. It could be 3 months later, 3 years later, or 3 decades later. And the truth is that there are answers, and you don't have to live in so much agony, pain, and distress before you realize that there are ways of healing, and healing properly and healing fully. And that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the big T, as in trauma, code trauma, and sleep, of course, because sleep is an incredible healer. And this is what I have dedicated my life to. And this is why I wrote Your Sleep Sweet Spot and ongoing posts and an upcoming book by the same title, Your Sleep Sweet Spot, and its companion book on crazy lucid dreams, inspired stories. But more about that later, and on the website. You can check that at thisisdiana.com anytime. For now, I want to talk to you, and I want to explain and explore with you, and for you to think about wherever you may be at this moment, how trauma has affected your life and how you can really start to truly heal. Let's do that now. Trauma. We've all gone through it at one point in our lives or another, or at least most of us have. And if we have gone through a trauma that we forgot about it, it may still be affecting your body, your mind, and your spirit. Something that is traumatic is something that is, number one, complicated. An experience you or someone you love may have had that has frightened you, physically damaged you, emotionally damaged you. It could be a one-time event, or it could be something that occurred for an extended period of time. For example, a lot of childhood traumas are traumas that occurred with abuse, physical, sexual, emotional abuse that went on throughout a person's childhood. And that affects them in many, many ways as they grow up and they grow older. Some people are hardy and resilient and are able to take that trauma and live a healthy, well-balanced life. But unfortunately, that's not the truth for most people. Most people do get damaged from that trauma, and it extends itself into many, many tendrils and tentacles in different areas of our lives. That is the damage that occurs when we don't do the proper healing, where we're not aware that we can heal. It is an option. The way to healing trauma does exist. It always has, but we have to find it. We have to find that way that specifically works for you. Your task, your job, your responsibility, according to your will, is to choose that path and give it a chance to work. And most importantly, don't give up, because it will work. Trauma is complicated. There's a lot of information out there. There are books, there are posts, there are seminars, webinars, there are doctors, there are, all kinds of therapists, regular people that are experiencing it and are sharing information about it. A lot of the information is very, very useful, but it could be very overwhelming because you might get conflicting information about what trauma is, whether or not it's healable, whether or not you do truly are suffering from trauma, or it's all in your head, quote unquote, as if something in your head was illegitimate, which it isn't. If it's in your head, it's there and it should be addressed. And this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to dispel all these myths. It is very, very frustrating for somebody who wants to express healing, that it is possible, has seen it, is experiencing it herself. I'm always in a point of healing because of myself. Of course, I've experienced trauma, and I dedicated myself to finding information and sharing it. And you choose what works for you. And believe me, something will work for you. And the reason that trauma is such an important topic is because the way it manifests itself for each individual varies. And what does this have to do with sleep? Well, sleep is the great healer. It heals many, many illnesses. It is essential. It is not an option. It is not something that's a waste of time. It is not something that you can just choose to do or not to do. It is an essential biological, emotional, mental, and spiritual function. It exists, and it is a necessity for a reason. Humans are the only ones we have to explain this to. Animals do this naturally. They know they need to sleep. Bears need to hibernate when it's time. Animals, cats, dogs, birds, you name it. They know when to sleep. It's us humans, always trying to be cute and sophisticated and brainy, that take something so crucial and make it unimportant. We got to go back to balance, nature, balancing intelligence with health and nature. And a lot of times trauma can be healed with the proper sleep. You gotta sleep. You gotta have restful sleep. You have to have enough sleep. Then you have the situation where somebody's saying, "We don't understand. It's the trauma that's causing the sleep problem. If I could sleep, then I wouldn't have a problem." Well, you're absolutely correct. Sleep can be extremely affected by trauma. So how do you get sleep when the trauma is causing the sleep issue? It's a convoluted situation, but we can untangle it. But first, let's talk about a little bit more specifically about trauma. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty about what trauma is. Trauma. Trauma manifests itself in many ways. As I said, it can happen in childhood. It could happen at any time in unexpected moments. It could happen one time in your life and affect every single aspect of your life. It could directly happen to you physically, or it could happen that you witnessed something. So it's not just something that's a physical trauma. You can also have an emotional trauma, and you can have a mental trauma. And it's something that you may have witnessed with your senses, not necessarily with sight alone, but with any of your senses. A loved one of yours may have been the one who succumbed to an event, death, or violence, and that is also equally traumatizing. Or you could be the recipient of the violent act itself. As I said a few moments ago, it could be a one-time event, or it could be something that's ongoing, or a few separate, distinct traumatic events that occur. There are some people that have experienced not only trauma in their childhood, but as they got older, they experienced a trauma that was similar to something they experienced in childhood, or something completely different. And then another time, they could have had another experience yet again that is completely different for something they experienced. And all that traumatic damage gets compounded. It gets added into our system, and it becomes debilitating. The effects of the trauma debilitate you in various ways. And as we said earlier, it affects every aspect of our lives. Your concentration, your physical being, whether you are able to function. You may have had so much physical damage that a part of you may have had to be severed or removed. A limb, an organ, an eye, anything, an eye is an organ. Or it could be something that has affected you again, that you have lost your physical possessions, your home, your property, your children, anything that you felt belonged to you may have been ripped away. It's also a form of trauma. And for us to heal from the trauma, it's an activity. We have to do something. For example, if you've had a physical traumatic event, ideally and hopefully your body, your mind, and your spirit can be in a position where you can get the help or know how to do it yourself, how to heal the physical trauma. For example, clean it up, bandage it. For example, if you've broken arm, have some type of medical care that puts it in a position where time can allow healing. If it's something like a sexual assault, of course, having the medical profession help you, having legal and justice done in the situation, the person who did it, the perpetrator, brought to justice. Also have the emotional and the physical and the spiritual support system that you need to heal from the process. So there are many, 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 many different things that come into play when it comes to healing. And not everyone heals the same way from a trauma that appears to be the same. Not everybody heals from a broken arm the same way. Some person may need a little bit more physical assistance with that arm, while another person might need more emotional assistance from whatever triggered the injury in the first place. So you see, you have to know yourself, and you have to get to know yourself some more. Trust yourself and your instincts and know what you need and follow through with that. I know we get a lot of noise from people, from society, from religion, from the community, giving all kinds of, you should and you shouldn't do. And the truth is, a lot of times there's an ulterior motive for all of that. And it's just to have control over us and control over our healing. Sometimes it's not to somebody else's benefit for you to be fully healed and fully independent and fully self-conscious of your body and your mind, because somehow they're dependent on you. And they might do anything to sabotage the situation. They may not even be aware of it. Society as a whole can do that as well. They may not want everybody to be self-actualized, everybody to have abundance, everybody to have, they're like, well, if you have, then you're going to take it away from me. That crazy scarcity thinking and power-hungry thinking. And that trickles down to you, the individual. You may not think that. You may not be thinking that, oh my God, please, that's a little paranoid, isn't it? Well, think about the trauma, the pain, and all the feedback that you may have gotten that may not be true. When somebody says, you don't need enough sleep, you don't need to do that. Get up early and start moving around. Start moving that leg that's broken. You move that leg, that's good for you. That's a myth. It's a myth because it troubles them to see you inactive for some reason, or healing. It bothers them for some reason. Follow your truth. Follow the truth. Unhealed trauma, which is what too many of us on this planet are dealing with. Unhealed trauma can lead to an extraordinary amount of complications. And those complications can lead to further trauma, more pain, more distress. And we're going to talk about those right now. So what are the effects of unhealed trauma? Trauma that remains partially or completely undealt with and starts festering at any level, whether it's a microscopic level, or the emotional level, or the mental level. Well, it can manifest in a lot of different ways. When you take a look at the original cause of many of the chronic conditions we have today, for example, sleep, chronic insomnia, some type of trauma could be at the root, and very most likely is at the root of that trauma. When you have something like chronic inflammation or ongoing chronic pain, a pain that just never went away. It's not even in the original place where the trauma occurred. Or it might be all over your body and so debilitating that it affects your whole quality of life. That can have some unhealed trauma at its root, and usually does. Depression, emotional, absolute devastation, darkness, feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. The desire of life, your life spark is very, very low. That can also have that for so many different reasons and so many different little webs that the trauma led into our life. Chronic anxiety and much stress, panic, PTSD, very much is directly caused by all kinds of unhealed trauma. Autoimmune overactivation. So your body, for example, is always on the lookout for all kinds of dangers and trying to protect you. It's not against you. It's not trying to fight you. It's trying to protect you. And in that overactivation, other conditions start to occur, like fibromyalgia, Lyme disease, lupus, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. I'm going to mention that again because so many people have that and they don't realize that it's at the cause of it. It's inflammation and trauma and chronic stress. And what that does physically, chemically, biochemically, psychologically, it's all interrelated. Many, many other conditions are also the root and the cause of many conditions. For instance, conditions that sometimes people don't realize: diabetes, high blood pressure, cancers, kidney diseases, all kinds of other issues, things like addictions, the need to self-medicate with alcohol or drugs, whether it's over-the-counter or illegal drugs, whatever the illegal drug is of the moment. Those are also connected. We're trying to heal. We're trying to self-heal. We're trying to reduce the pain. In some cases, we're trying to feel alive, remove that lethargy that we have for life. And healing trauma, healing all that pain, all that convoluted mess, takes time, practice, strategy, but it can be done. And sleep is part of that answer. Finding the way to create a routine in your life where you can manage some of these influencers of pain, anxiety, panic, and give yourself that room a little bit at a time to get the restoration that occurs and can only occur while you are resting and sleeping. This is why so many times in hospitals and medical centers and clinics, they say, oh, you need to rest. It's not because they want you not to do something. It's because the body needs to do its healing and it needs for you to sit still. It needs for you to lay down. It needs for you to not stop moving around so much because it interferes with what the body needs to do, the mind needs to do, and your spirit and your consciousness needs to do while you're doing that healing. So many different disorders are associated with this. And when it comes to sleep, for instance, that there is, I would say, more and more every day, there are more answers on how crucial, not only crucial sleep is, but how to create a routine that works for you. So that is really good news. I think for me, the most difficult thing for me to portray to you, to my audience, to my readers is, and for my clients, is that you can heal. It is possible. We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to regrow a limb as the genetics are working on it. But in the meantime, we are going to have losses, physical losses, mental losses. But there's a way for us to heal to the point where we are functional and where we are balanced and we can do the best we can with what we can, as opposed to just feeling a sense of deficiency, a sense of defeat, and a sense of things that are getting worse. And even if you have a life-threatening illness and condition, something terminal, an illness, for instance, then there are ways for you to take care of yourself to such an extent where you can bring calm, centeredness, peace, and understanding to why this is happening, what the process is, what you may expect to happen, and how to come to terms with it in a way that is healthy. And there is a glimmer of happiness and hope. This is what I want to portray with you. This is what I'm doing with thisisdiana.com, with your sweet sleep spot, or your sleep sweet spot. How to find that place, that time for you to find restoration, and not only in your sleep, but in your home, in your work, in your environment, and take it with you when you go out. For example, a sense of protection and safety if you suffer from anxiety, some type of agoraphobia, or any type of phobia, a ways for you to cope and heal. So what this means is that healing can occur. I will emphasize this, and I will say it over and over again. It is time to heal. All you have to do is make the choice. All you have to do is say, I am ready. I'm going to do this. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. I might fall a couple of times. I might even feel like this is going the opposite direction and things are getting worse. That's part of the process as well. And it's holistic. Holistic. It's not just science. It's not just spiritual. It's not just metaphysical. It's not just physical. It is holistic. It is a whole circle, a sphere of understanding. So you may have to revisit the trauma in some cases. You may need to know what the cause is. You don't necessarily have to know what the cause of the original cause of the trauma is, but know that there is something there. There is a piece of us that was lost in that moment, and then we can get that and retrieve that and integrate it back into our life, even if it's in the mental, imaginary level. It doesn't have to be in the physical. We can't get the limb back. We can't, if we lost a leg or an arm or a finger, but we can get that part of us that was lost, which is the fear that it caused that explosion in our system. And we can live. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, I've witnessed it, how awe-inspiring of individuals that are living such a balanced, contributive life. They're contributing in a way that so-called some of us with no physical injuries or emotional injuries are saying, wow, they do so much. It's not to intimidate you, it's to inspire you. You can do your version of that. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. You are you. So with that said, I'm going to keep it nice and succinct and short. I want you to know that you have the ability to heal. And there are techniques, there are strategies, there are all kinds of things that you can do to do it. For me, the first thing is to make an assessment. What do you need? How do you need it? Please check thisisdiana.com. There's a trauma assessment form. That form, you can download it. It's free. You can say, okay, what is it that hurt me? And you can just start there. And if you want more information, contact me. If you need information about sleep coaching, contact me. If you want information on how to design your space for a calming, healing environment, contact me. Message me any way you need to. Make a comment on the website. This is also available in a blog form if you want to read it, if you want to sit down and look at it and think about it a little bit more. Please do. The doors are open. Go through them. Remember, when one door closes, 10 more will open with a lot of opportunities. Follow where your heart and your gut says. So with that said, I wish you wholeness. I wish you wellness. And we'll talk much, much more, especially about sleep. My passion, because so many wonderful things happen during sleep, including inspiring dreams. Even if you don't remember your dreams, you can find a way of recovering them. The answers are there. They're in the source. They're in the field of everything. And all you can do, and all you need to do, is open yourself to it. So thank you for joining me. Until next time, this is Diana from thisisdiana.com.